When we were planning this conference, the theme is around positive ageing and healthy ageing. So I thought it would be really good if we could get a well-known sporting hero of the country to represent that concept of positive ageing. And I'm so delighted that we've got Max Walker here. Max is the son of a Tasmanian master builder and a publican. He's an AM. He's internationally renowned for his sportsmanship, integrity, credibility and commercial success. He's headed his own successful company for nearly 30 years. His most prominent successes are in philanthropy and media, and he's an architect, a legendary sports person, an Australian Test cricketer and a VFL, AFL footballer, and I'm a big fan of cricket, so I remember Tangles back then. Max has a diverse range of business interests extending from public relations, marketing and executive mentoring to new technology and multimedia platforms. He's always willing to share his wisdom, lateral thinking and enthusiasm for life and love of learning. His varied background and business acumen combined with a warm, vibrant personality and a genuine interest in people has made him a sought-after professional speaker, MC and corporate host. He's a prolific reader, author and contributor to various magazines, and to date he's penned and published 14 books, 7 of which have been #1 bestsellers. On a personal level, Max is a dedicated family man who enjoys his leisure pursuits in the arts, photography and architecture, fine wines, collecting fountain pens and adventurous travel, which epitomises healthy ageing. He's also, he was appointed as a member of the General Division of the Order of Australia in 2011 in the Queen's Birthday Honour List. So it's a real pleasure to welcome Max Walker to speak about healthy ageing. Thank you, Max.
Thank you very much. Well, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm down at the MCG. I've just walked onto the hallowed turf. And I'm off the long run, charging in, right arm over left ear roll, legs crossed at the point of delivery. Very hard to be good looking and pretty on your feet. I rest my case. I was biomechanically perfect before biomechanics was even a word. 1973, I was touring the West Indies. There was a fair bit of barbed wire around, a lot of palm trees. Everyone was drinking a rum and coke. In fact, some of the guys with the Rasta hairdos in the back of the grandstand were smoking the marijuana, as we would say. And look at this, I'm a Tasmanian, I've got a fair nose, and a bloke's got to breathe down there, so you can imagine what it was like, can't you? Sure, look, I had a good tour. I took 26 wickets, we won 2-0, but it was back here. My dad, same name, Big Max, he'd suffered pneumonia. Now, I didn't know at the time. They didn't tell me. They didn't want to worry me. But it was pretty serious. He was hospitalised and spent a bit of time there. So in a sense, I've got that sort of connection to it. My dad's younger brother, Rex, at the age of 5. Dad was one of 9 kids. He died of whooping cough. And there was no immunisation back then in Hobart. So just for me to get out of Hobart, cross Bass Strait and come to the mainland, as we call Australia, that was a challenge in itself. But hasn't the world changed? And why wouldn't we want to have the right to have a healthy ageing? I've just ticked over 65. That's really scary. You know, I can remember when I was 7 or 8 what I dreamt about. Now, can you? Look at that. I reckon I've just pressed the rewind button in the Necktop computer. The most powerful piece of technology on the planet, that 3.5 pound blob stuck between our ears. We can think of anything. But look at the eyebrows, they've flicked up. I wanted you to go back there because inside our head, that's where the vision, that's where the future, that's where the possibility. Imagination plus association equals possibility. That's one of my favourite equations. Imagination plus association equals possibility. Isn't it fantastic? Just a really flash way to say linking the dots. but creative thinking. And the sort of thinking that will come from today's workshop, that's it. We need to get outside of our comfort zone. If we stay in there, we'll just shrivel up and die. The point I was making, what's going to happen to me, my bucket list, in the last quadrant of my life? It's a scary way to say it, isn't it? But I don't know about you. I'm reasonably selfish. I want it to be pretty terrific. I've always wanted it to be pretty terrific. So with immunisation, why wouldn't we wave the flag high and try and put it to a public and a political agenda so that it is much more user-friendly right across the country? You know, it's our responsibility, both individually and in a collaborative spirit inside this room. I started to talk to you about dreams. And I reckon in this country, one of the biggest dreams was way back in 1993. And a guy named Juan Antonio Samaran said, Sydney! I know we got the Socceroos, and they're in South America at the moment, and it's a pretty big deal. But in 1993, when we had the audacity to believe that we could put on a show, an Olympic Games, better than anyone else on the planet, and then they said, yes, that's really scary. Now we've got to actually do what we say. In Athens, they had 7 years too, and it ran right to the wire, didn't it, before they got it up. But where were you on that Friday night? The opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in Sydney. There's not much must-watch television around these days, but I think back then you just had to watch that opening ceremony. Now, I wasn't disappointed that Channel 7 had the rights. Kenny Sutcliffe, the little male model from Mudgee, lipstick marks on his own mirror, sexiest eyes in television. Kenny, we were just good players out of luck. But like most of us, anyone here actually go to the opening ceremony live? Yeah, very rarely get many hands pointed skywards because only 120,000 got to go live. The rest of us mere mortals, we were at home in the lounge room. I had a few mates over, ripped the top off a really nice bottle of wine, and the kids are on the floor with the chips and the soft drinks. And from the moment the credits rolled down, and remember, the horses went left to right of stage, and the hooves and that orange dust, and the Australian flag, the national anthem, I thought, my goodness, how proud am I to be an Australian? This is fantastic. And then that tiny little girl, Nikki Webster, hanging upside down in the darkness. My 7-year-old daughter, Alexandra, said, Dad, why didn't they use me? She thought it would have been really, really cool to hang upside down in front of an audience of around about 4 billion people. And it would have been. You know, this is before Facebook and YouTube. It would have been sensational. Didn't matter that you had to have some sort of gymnastic ability. But, you know, the Indigenous representation, patchwork quilt of ideas and images. Rick Birch and his team, hundreds of thousands of man and woman hours, came together to make that that little window into the world. For us, it was terrific. You know, the sound and light show. In another life, I used to be an architect. I've designed some of the best chook houses in the whole of Melbourne. It's amazing what you can do with corrugated iron. And then a chrome perch. Can you imagine putting a chrome perch in a chook house? I mean, if you're a chook, you've got to look at that and go, wow, haven't you? You go, whoa. But, you know, you wonder why I wrote a book called How to Hypnotise Chooks. Well, yeah, the chooks, they'd get on the chrome perches, they couldn't stay on, they kept flipping off. But you know, that whole evening was incredible. Did you have a little side wager as to who might light the cauldron? What's the value of an idea? If I give you an idea, you give me an idea, we've both got two ideas. In a room like this, on a day like this, in a workshop like this, it's dynamic. Whoever came up with that idea of showcasing 6 or 7 female athletic icons was a masterstroke. If I shut my eyes now, I can imagine right there, Raylene Boyle pushing a wheelchair. Sitting in the wheelchair, Betty Cuthbert. What a woman. The torch in the hand, the flame flickering. Both women, their face awash with tears. Shane Gould was there. Dawn Fraser was there. It couldn't possibly be Cathy Freeman, could it? Now you might think Cathy Freeman and I have got not much in common, and you're right. She can run. But I'm an honorary life member of the Phantom Club of Australia, the ghost who walks, Mr. Walker. And to think on that night, Cathy Freeman went to all the trouble to get dressed up in the Phantom outfit. Yes. And remember that sea of humanity opened up and she made her way to the base of this big concrete structure and she stood in a circle of fire, didn't she? Backdrop of water. And remember, she stood and she stood 7 seconds, 8 seconds. My mate Peter, who's an electrician, Peter said, Maxie, we've got a problem. I said, on the night we'll fix it, Pete. And it's still there. What had happened was a $20 microchip had failed. But such was the preoccupation with excellence that we were able to, or they were able to go into manual override. The ratchet's locked in and this godlike image of this woman being elevated up into the darkness. And she leant over that big cauldron, flame lit, an indelible moment. And then if you wanted to fast forward around about a week to the 25th of September at 8 o'clock, 400 metres final, Bruce McAvaney was really excited. He was going to be, I knew he'd be special. Sorry, that's a cheap shot, Maxie. But look, it was an amazing night, that one too. It took Cathy Freeman only, and I say only, 49 seconds, 178 and a half paces, and a lifetime to manifest her sporting destiny. So when she breast the tape, she won a lot more than just a gold medal, didn't she? What she did for herself, Indigenous Australia, women of the world, she perhaps had one of the most famous female faces on the planet for about 5 years, I reckon, after that event. But who will ever forget Cathy Freeman? That's probably Shane Warne. Tell him we're not taking any texts at all at the moment. He's relentless, isn't he? I mean, just... Sorry, Warnie. Oh, that was a zooter, mate. But when she was wrapped in those flags and she made her way around that 400-metre track, it was just... That was indelible. So today, and I started to talk, and I haven't got much time, but I thought today, you know what... I might share my dream. I grew up in the backyard of the Empire Hotel, corner of Burnett and Elizabeth Street, North Hobart. My dad called that the Institute of Experience. The good, bad and the ugly would sometimes lob there all on any given day. This incredible, colourful cavalcade of characters used to come in and out of my life. Was amazing. But upstairs in room number 8, I could dream in Technicolor, widescreen. You know, there was no Flickr, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, and no YouTube back then. My Uncle Charlie and I used to wind copper wire around a cardboard cylinder to make a thing called a crystal set. Wow. Yeah, I'd lie in bed with these great big heavy headphones and I'd listen to these sound waves, beautiful sound waves that had bounced from one side of the world to the other. The silky, smooth voice of Alan McGilvray. The gravel-voiced Englishman, John Arlott, Charles Fortune, the South African. They were the voices that got in my head. In fact, we watched a test pattern in Hobart for 6 months. It was in black and white, and then it moved, and I thought, whoa, look at this. But upstairs, I used to to dream about owning my own green baggy cap. I could feel the texture. Could run my fingers over the gold braid in the coat of arms. I could smell the freshly cut grass at the MCG, and I could feel the weight of 5.5 ounces of leather in my hand. Now, it takes a little while for a dream to come true, and I thought, I haven't got much time, I thought I'd bring it along. Now, this is not a weather report, it's not Mark Warren, it's not Shane Warne. Inside that brown paper bag, and I've spent a lifetime trying to get one of these, is the green baggie. Look at that. Now, please, afterwards, come down, run your fingers over the gold braid, put it on, take a photograph, do a selfie, whatever you want to do. I mean, it's good enough for 5 Buddhist monks in India to want to have a selfie with Maxie Walker. It's good enough for you to come out and put the cap on, isn't it, eh? Which is another story. But, you know, that's what I spent a lifetime trying to get. And so what happens, and I'll finish quickly, what happens when you have some success? And I dare say we'll have some success after the workshop today. And we'll have a course. We'll be on a route to wave the flag and make things happen. Make a difference to the world. Make healthier ageing just second nature to everyone. Well, there was no camera, there was no legend saying, Maxie, wear that like all of those that have gone before you. Cap number 1 was Charlie Bannerman way back in 1877. If you want to, this one's number 263. What's significant about this? It's 3 earlier than Lenny Pascoe. To me, that's very important. So I took it home. Just opened up the brown paper, plain package at the MCG, and my dad, Big Max, the guy that had pneumonia, there he is, 17.5 stone of him, barrel-chested man, grade 1 lawnmower haircut, straight over the top. He's got the builder's overalls on, the red pencil stuck in here. Got the nail bag hanging on the hip and the hammer. Larger than life he is. And as I walked through the flywire door, my parents split up when I was about 13, and look, I could have a pity attack. But isn't it about what you do with circumstance, how you bounce back? And so there it was. We ate a lot of takeaway food. We lived in a little flat in Camberwell. And as I walked through the flywire that door there, I pulled the cap on like that. And I looked at my dad and I said, what do you think of that? And he said, not bad, not bad. And then he said, come here. He wants my cap. He's got a bigger head than mine. I can see it because there's not much hair on it. But what happens when your dad says, give me the cap? You give him the cap. And then he pulled on the cap like that, and he looked back at me and he said, what do you think of that? And I said, not bad. But when I got in really close to my dad, I could see the tears rolling down over the cheek. Seemed like eternity before it hit the floor and dissipated. You see, I knew then that it wasn't just me. It never is just me or I. It's we, it's us, it's that spirit of collaboration, that sort of energy that we have in the room here today. Because he was a schoolboy prodigy. He was signed up at the age of 17 by both Essendon and St Kilda. But his mum was a tough old lady. Leg amputated below the leg later in life. She zapped around the yard in a chair like this with the little mag wheels on it, got it sideways over the cattle grid, chopped up the wood, fed the dog, fired up the stove. They don't make them like that anymore. But she said to him, you hop on the ferry to cross Bass Strait, that ferry sinks, you're dead, I've lost a son, you're not going. So he never pursued his dream. But he looked over my shoulder and he said, always, that to go for it. Aim for Mount Everest. You might only get 3/4 of the way up. You might only get, doesn't matter. But once you get outside your comfort zone and have a go. And as you get older, you should get smarter. But if you take care of your health, you can do all of those things. So to me, you know, I've done that. That was yesterday. This is today. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. But I've started a couple of things differently. I've gone back to watercolour classes after 40 years. Frustrated architect. Can you imagine just the sloping board and you run the brush? It's a bit like writing books. There's nothing better than that big black ribbon of ink on rice paper. Opens up the creative gates. The big Meisterstücke, Mont Blanc, fantastic. So I've written 14 books, all with a fountain pen. And yet today I play on the iPad. A guy in an article the other day referred to me as a silver cyber surfer. High-tech tangled. Doesn't that got a ring to it, eh? There's probably a book in that one. Look, I'd love to speak and spend more time with you. Look forward to having a mix and a mingle out there at coffee and perhaps at lunchtime too. Have an outstanding day. But I leave you with 3 sentences. To be able to dream any dream, that's the beauty of the human mind. To be able to do anything you want, that's the strength of the human will. To be able to trust yourself, to test your limits, that is the courage to succeed. We are in an information society, ladies and gentlemen. There are a lot of computers, there's a lot of technology, but the bottom line's people. Our ability to communicate with one another will be directly proportional to the sort of success we can hope to achieve. So believe in yourself and the fabulous people that you have around you and provide that creative energy to make things happen. Today is a perfect platform for that. It'll be a great workshop. As we used to do on Channel 9 many times, we go back to Central Commentary. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. I know.
Thank you very much, Max. That was really inspiring, and we just have a very small token of our appreciation and look forward to talking to you more in the morning.
Thank you very much. Have an outstanding day.